Right, I think that we are in business. So, hello, I am Mordred. I am going to play a little bit of Attila Total War as in the expansion. Which one is it? I have not played this for a long time. Age of Charlemagne, that's the one. It's a relatively new DLC which came out, I want to say 2 weeks ago, something like that. We are going to have a look at the different factions available. So first of all we have the Carolingian dynasty, which is of course Charlemagne himself. This is basically the foundation of the Frankish Empire. It started over here, Aachen, which was actually their capital. It was not in Paris, as you might think from the Frankish name going to the French. How do I eat that? There we go. Right, so that's one of the options. They have a initial challenge hard, which I kind of find difficult to believe. I would think that playing as the Franks in the Age of Charlemagne campaign would actually be fairly easy, especially as they do have quite a lot of territory. Asturias, that is northwestern Spain, Galicia region. These are the remnants of the Visigoths. Ambush, chance, and raise and abandon settlement. So these are basically the migrators from the previous Attila. These guys have royal splendor, so their generals are really, really strong. Which is actually quite a nice bonus, that one. And you get less integrity penalty for casualties taken. So that's basically saying you take no integrity from casualties. That's also quite powerful. So you can lose battles more easily. Not sure that's a particularly good advantage, to be quite honest. The Avars, these are horse lords, so they would be the horse archers. They'd probably fight somewhat similar to the Mongols, who would not be due to arrive for another, let's see, 700 years or so. So obviously their cavalry are better, and they get no post-battle casualties if their cavalry run away. Emirate of Cordoba, these are the high-tech guys. Actually, the Moors in South Spain were very tolerant and very technologically advanced. This was kind of the Islamic Golden Age. The Moors controlled a lot of Spain, and actually if you look at, maybe it was Asturias. Asturias is basically the Christians trying to retake Spain. This was the beginnings of the Reconquista, so you'd definitely be fighting against Cordoba. Cordoba had a lot of universities. They built up the city of Granada, Alhambra. That was all built during this era. So obviously research rate is increased. They get more money from tributary states, and I never really liked tributary states in this game, so I probably won't do that. And public order from religious unrest is always nice. And then here we have the Danes. These are the people who we will most likely be playing as. They are immune to seasickness, which means we can any soldiers can be in the ships. It doesn't necessarily need to be actual combat warships, so even transports will fight pretty well. Immune to high seas attrition, which means we can cross the North Sea here without taking any actual damage. And we get more money from sacking, looting, and raiding. So that sounds like a whole lot of fun, because in the original Attila, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, looting and raiding is really, really good source of income. Sacking as well. Sacking, yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute. Lombards, these are the northern Italians. They're actually technically Vikings, if I remember this correctly. I have read through all of these, but I'm just trying to kind of summarize. I'm sure these guys came from the north. No, they didn't. They came from the east, fleeing in front of the Huns. Okay, so they get more money again from puppet states. Again, I'm not particularly convinced of the strength of that particular bonus, and tributary and puppet states give you more levies. So these guys are definitely going to be playing the diplomatic game, and the diplomatic game in the Total War series has never been that great. Mercia, these are the English, the Anglo-Saxons, which almost certainly will be at great odds with the Danes. The Danes at this era, the very beginning of the Viking Age, would be coming across the sea, raiding the English, because basically they've exhausted all of their raiding targets over in the Baltic. And England's a nice fat target with lots of money and lots of wealthy churches and stuff that they could plunder. Mercia was kind of at the receiving end of that. Even though they were the most powerful kingdom, they were also under the most attack. So Northumbria above them was the first to fall. Mercia eventually fell, as did, who would these guys be? I'm sure there's another kingdom there, but I forget which. And then of course Wessex under Alfred the Great was the last kingdom standing, and Alfred actually managed to rebuild the Anglo-Saxon kingdom and retake much of England. Not all of it. There was still a section of it called Danelaw. The the name should give that one away. Danelaw, it's owned by the Danes. It was Viking territory. So that's basically what we will be fighting to establish. Then finally Westphalia. They were actually the Saxons. I don't know why they didn't just call them the Saxons, because that is what they are. They would also be raiding and pillaging. They actually have even better bonuses with raiding and pillaging than the Vikings do, which I think could be an interesting game, but they just don't have the same reach that the Danes have because of their high seas attrition. I just really like Viking units. They're heavy infantry. You may have noticed from my Prophecy of Pendor Let's Play, I like infantry. I really, really like infantry. As opposed to, say, the Kingdom of Charlemagne, which would be mostly knights. This is before like the Norman Conquest, which is often considered the beginning of the knightly era, the Middle Ages, is really the Franks who started using heavy cavalry and early knights. So that's what you could expect to see from them. So we will definitely be playing as the Danes. Now, in previous Attila, I was actually playing as the Jutes. The Jutes were based on the top of Jutland, hence the name, Jutland, Jutes. So basically the Danes started actually over here in Sieland, which is their capital. So what we are playing now as the Danes is technically actually the Jutes. The Danes and Jutes and all the others there combined into one nation. I'm actually kind of surprised we don't start with the islands, because they're not coloured in, so I'm going to kind of guess they're not part of this scenario. I don't know, I haven't actually started this campaign before. But the Jutes were a lot of fun, because I just had loads of fleets of long ships just raiding the coast here. As I plundered those and they became less and less valuable, I'd go further and further south, eventually reaching Portugal. I think I did reach North Africa, but I didn't go much further than that. In the meantime, my armies pushed south into Germany, and I burnt all the cities in northern Germany to give myself a nice big buffer between us and the Romans and all the other nations that were forming up. So one of the really interesting things that Attila does is being able to sack cities. So you can just destroy them, knock them off the map. Never been able to do that before in any Total War game. It's a game changer, it really is. And like the Huns especially play with that particularly well. And of course there are no Huns in this. In fact, I think the furthest east we go is the Avar, so I'll be kind of interested to see just how far this map stretches. My Metonine post-it notes keep falling off. Right, so we will start the campaign and see what we begin with. And I'll shut up during the opening cinematic because I'm pretty sure there will be one.
There have been many kings before you. Many names, many titles. Men who rose from nothing. Men who risked all that they love to lead by honor and virtue and inspire the common man. Do you think you're different? Somehow chosen. Who gave you the right to rule? It wasn't the people. It wasn't God. It was you.
Your people have lived and worshipped in these lands for centuries. But now it is time to expand to foreign shores to make your kingdom rich. First, however, you must secure your borders. To the south, your Saxon allies are threatened by the nomadic Slavs. If you push them back now, you may gain the security you need to expand. Across the Western Sea is the Isle of Britain, thrown into disarray after centuries of occupation and unrest. Its people squabble among themselves and are ill-prepared for your fury. South of them, on the mainland, is the kingdom of the Franks. Though currently fractured, it would be powerful if united under a single ruler. There is wisdom in attacking whilst it is at its weakest. You stand on the precipice of glory everlasting. Take the Vikings to war.
Sweet. Right. So we have our first... Oh no, it's explaining war weariness. So the longer we're at war, the more war weariness we get. So this is a new mechanic. This is not in the original Attila. So losing battles will increase war weariness. When we get a high enough level, we'll get penalties. We can reduce it during peacetime. In fact, it'll go down quickly during peacetime. And signing a peace treaty will also reduce it quite significantly as a one-time kind of boon. If people declare war on us as opposed to us declaring on them, then weariness will be decreased by winning battles and withdrawing troops to our own borders. So it's basically, as long as we have men abroad, or if we're in an offensive war, then it's bad. And that's actually going to be a bit of an issue for us because we're the Vikings. Most of these wars will be offensive. So we need to reach Imperium level 3. That basically just means that we need to take more territory. And we need to... Oh, we get a reward of that money. And we have new sub-objectives, so we'll take a quick look at those. So we have like the main objective, which is the reach Imperium level 3, and we get the reward for it when we've done that. There are also these sub-objectives, which you can also reach before reaching this one. So for example, we need to hold at least 2 settlements, including Bamberg, which I think is in England. Yeah, it is. We need to have 40 military units in total. We currently have 14. We need to have one sacred grove, so that's for spreading religion. That shouldn't be a problem. We need to have at least 80% pagan religion in all of our provinces. That will probably be more difficult to do, though currently we have it just because we haven't spread anywhere. So in the early game, I know imperialism would mean that we do actually need to steal land. I was going to say we could do that just by not spreading anywhere and just raiding stuff, but that wouldn't really work. We need to have an income of at least 5,000. Good grief. I like having large armies, so that's also going to be extremely difficult. Although, raiding and pillaging, you never know. Could happen. Though that doesn't actually count as income. I think it's just added straight to your treasury. And then finally, we need to research the King's Court technology, which is just there. It's actually fairly early on. So each of the different factions has their own tech tree. And this is one of the reasons that Creative Assembly say they often break up factions into their own DLCs and splitting them off that way. It's because the AI groups don't have custom techs, and they don't have custom units and stuff, while these do. So we're playing as the Vikings, we have our own custom tech tree. No one else will share this. The Saxon one might be kind of similar, but it won't be the same as this. And they give different bonuses and different things, so we'll need to take a look at that in more detail in a moment. So those are the objectives. We have a faction which looks pretty similar to Attila. So we have a number of candidates who could be made into a general, an admiral, or a governor. We've started with 2 members of the family, oh no, 1 member of the family and 1 lord. So we have Ragnar, who is an admiral, 48 years old, 18 influence, quite loyal, 8 out of 10. And then Hemming. Oh no, sorry, that's our family. So Siegfried is our lord. Hemming is a governor currently. He's 7 out of 10 loyalties, 25 years old, so he's not very old, and 37 loyalty, 37 influence. Influence is then spent on the intrigue that you can see there in the bottom right. In fact, if I click on you, it'll stay there. So these are the intrigue options. And you can do that to create marriages, get people more loyal to you, get people less loyal to you, increase these things up here, and I'll explain those in a moment. Adopt people into the family, which is actually really, really helpful, especially if you have a young child as your heir. You may want someone a little bit older, so we could adopt one of these guys. And they'll be added to our family, and we basically gain more strength through that. So at the top here we have our power level. This is basically how much of, power is basically a combination of dominion and control. The more powerful we are, so the more control and the more dominion we have, the more loyalty we get out of people, but also the more corrupt we become. These penalties are a lot less than the Romans have. Wow. And then dominion is basically how much influence we as a faction have over the other factions in our land. And then control is how much of the nobility we control, and that is just kind of something you have to increase every now and then with one of these options. I always forget which. Gather support, that one. So every now and then you need to do that, and I think control also goes up or down depending on how well you are doing yourself as a faction. Right, so previous experience, obviously I was playing as the Dukes before. I've also played as Western Roman Empire. That is a game that I was very tempted to actually stream instead of doing this, but each turn currently takes me about an hour to an hour and a half. It is such a massive, massive empire that it just takes forever to do anything. And it's actually a lot of fun. It's one of the most fun campaigns I've done in this game, so if you have some spare time, I highly recommend trying it. And it's also one of the most interesting in terms of mechanics, dynamics, and balance. You start with this huge empire, and usually in a strategy game like this, when you have the big empire, game over, you've won, you've snowballed, good game. Not for Western Rome. You have so many enemies chipping away at you, constantly, chipping, that your empire will shrink, and it will shrink quite dramatically depending on how your own battles go, so that you really have to choose where you want to stand and where you want to lose. So I tried to hold Britain for a really long time, for example. In the end, I just gave it up. Then the enemy started attacking me here in Belgium, and Belgium I did actually manage to hold, and because I held Belgium, I managed to hold Gaul, so they couldn't get into France because they had to come through Belgium. I did suffer constant raids from the English in Britain, but I couldn't really defend against them. Meanwhile, down here in Africa, my African colony of, Carthage, was actually really, really wealthy until Northern Africans started pushing across from the Middle East and pushing in. And then Byzantium fell, which was terrible because then the Huns were a problem. So yeah, this game really mixes things up that you would normally expect. So big, huge empires don't necessarily mean they'll survive. Sometimes having these small, agile factions can be far, far more powerful and more potent. So let's have a look at what troops we have. Oh man, they've gone back to the old tiles. Don't like those. Because Rome 2 had the really stylized unit things. I think these are nicer, but I still prefer like the more realistic models that they actually use in the game. So we have our Admiral, who has a decent melee. I'm just taking a look at the stats there on the left. Good armor, very good armor. In fact, the Vikings tend to have decent armor. Good ships, good morale. I probably won't fight many of the naval battles because I don't particularly like them, but where I will use them is when we have armies both on land and at sea doing a combined attack. Those look so cool. Seriously, they are one of the most fun things in this game. And we'll be doing a lot of that, actually, as the Vikings. So when we start doing raids along the coast, we'll be coming from the ships onto land. And that's all facilitated by being able to do that. So who's this below us? We have got Noldalbingia, who control... Let's have a look. Where's diplomacy? Oh, they're quite big. So we are allied with Westphalia, who is these territories. We're at war with Charlemagne, so we could immediately start raiding the Frankish territories, and we probably will do that, just to raise a little more cash. And the more we raid them, the more we weaken them, because it takes time and money to restore raided buildings back to functional strength. We also have Oberdreit down here. Nordalbingia looks like it could be a very good way to expand south, just to earn ourselves a little more territory. And yeah, it looks like the rest of Scandinavia is just locked off. It's greyed out, so I'm going to guess we can't go there. It looks like it's that way for the rest of the Baltic, which is unfortunate because the Baltic was a good source of income for the Vikings in reality, until they kind of exhausted it by just raiding it too much, and then they went west instead of east. They didn't so much go south. And the other thing the Vikings did, I think this might actually have been in this era or maybe a little bit later, is Normandy. The hint in the name, Normandy, Norman, Norseman. The Vikings were attacking northern France so hard and so bitterly that the King of France said, look, if we give you a chunk of territory in the north to one guy, Rollo the Viking, said, if I give you a chunk of land here in the north, will your kinsmen continue to attack us? And Rollo basically went, probably not. So he was given a big chunk of land up here in Normandy and established his own kind of pseudo-kingdom. I think he was still technically a duke to the King of France, but they had a lot of autonomy. And the Vikings did continue attacking, but not nearly as fiercely, and they kind of moved elsewhere, especially Britain. So doing that actually saved a fair bit of France, because you had the Vikings sailing all the way down the Seine and sacking Paris. Not once, but twice. And the Vikings historically did get all the way down to Lisbon. They sacked that at least once. And going to the east, Constantinople, which is not on this map. How can you not put Where am I going to get my Varangians from? Man. So Vikings went to Constantinople quite frequently and actually were the bodyguard for the Byzantine emperors because they were more trusted. Basically, so long as the Byzantine emperor kept the money going, because they were mercenaries, then they would remain loyal. However, they didn't write the contract right. The Varangians were loyal to the throne of Byzantium, not the emperor of Byzantium. So when another guy sat on the throne and commanded them, the Vikings accepted his commands and not the actual emperor's. And that did actually lead to a coup once. But otherwise, they were far more trustworthy than the actual Byzantines, so the emperors preferred to use these fierce foreign troops. Nordalbinger's happy with us. Okay, so Nordalbinger we have a non-aggression pact, so we're actually very secure here, so we can just go and raid stuff. So I'm actually going to try and make a trade deal. Little known fact, but the Vikings were actually really good traders. And most of the time they actually preferred trade to raiding. A lot of Christian pressure was applied to Scandinavia, and that is one of the reasons it's believed that they started raiding, was to basically lash out at these Christians who were demanding they convert to their religion. And Westphalia we will also trade with.
We have need of talk,
this is a nice little
sure.
source of additional income.
We also need good food, a warm fire, and warm women.
Oh, we already have an agreement with them. Never mind then. And Charlemagne we're at war with. We could have a trade route, but far more money just attacking them. So let's grab our army. I could put you to sea. Let's see what we have. We have Levy Freemen, who have fairly poor stats. What abilities do you have? Rapid advance. Okay, so they're good at hunting down cavalry and archers, but that's about it. How's your shield? Do you have a shield? Please tell me you actually have shields. I really hope you have shields. Yeah, they must have shields. Sword Herdman, please have... Yes! Shield Wall, one of my favourite abilities in the game. It is actually, I think, more powerful than the Roman Tetsudos. It's one of the best defensive strategies you can employ in this. You basically form a shield wall in the centre of the line, the enemy crashes against them, you hold the line, then you hit them from the flanks and from behind. We have Axe Freemen, so Vikings of course have a lot of Axemen. Axemen are great because they have excellent armor piercing, so anyone who has heavy armor against us we will cleave through. And actually in the late game against the Romans, that was really potent. Your Axemen just carved through the heavily armored Romans. And then the archers, I keep saying Roman. Viking archers tend to be kind of rubbish, so I'm not going to be emphasizing them too much. Right, we have got light assault ships, who I believe are marine. No, Viking raiders. Sweet. So Viking raiders, if memory serves, are super strong. Their armor sucks. They have decent health, good attack, good melee, good damage. I just want to compare that to like the spearmen. So you can see there, melee attack of the longship, much stronger. Charge, melee defense, 32. No, 32 both, so both equally good in defending. Oh no, sorry, melee damage is what I'm looking at. Melee defense 50 for them and 32 for them. So the spearmen will be much better at holding position. So these guys do have use the whip, which increases their melee defense. So when they're being attacked, that's a good one to do. Same amount of health, same amount of morale. And the longship's a lot quicker, but I think that's just the ship itself and not the units. Right, now the question is, do I want to use my general and start you raiding with the ships? I think I probably do. So we're going to board the ships with you guys. And now the navy should protect them. So we have the two tabs here. So technically the army is being protected by the navy. And we're going to start sailing down the coast here. We're going to start hitting the Franks because we're already at war with them. Where was this war weariness thing? Not seeing anything about that on the UI here. Maybe in the actual cities? Oh, that one. I'm not seeing anything about war weariness, so I'm guessing we just don't have any right now. That'll suit me. So we have some public order, +1 out of 0. It's good enough. Do we only have the one region? Provinces. We have just the one province of Jutland. Nice and easy to hold. It actually makes a fair amount of money. Quite wealthy. And it is increasing. Let's have a look at the technologies and then we'll decide what kind of buildings we want. So this one increases replenishment. So when we take damage in battles, you'll automatically replenish troops, and this basically increases the speed at which you get soldiers. So your armies get to fighting strength much more quickly. Ooh, more raiding income. That would be really nice. Less fatigue. Yeah, okay. Movement range. So we can raid more and move further. I can see these guys doing a lot of raiding. Recruitment capacity. Oh, these just increase. So you can increase Imperium without actually taking territory. That's very interesting. So I don't actually need to expand my territory at all. I mean, I can eventually, of course, but I could also just increase the Imperium by doing these things. Huh. Public order. That's basically free public order. Free public order is really always helpful. You're basically always going to need that. Cultural buildings. Probably won't be building many of those just yet. Ship mill. No idea what that is. More wealth. The King's Hall. More Imperium. No, we're definitely going the military line for the moment because we want those raiding and movement speed bonuses. Once we have the movement speed, we can basically raid, move away, and things will generally go a lot quicker. We also have different stances, so we could actually go into double time, which would mean that we could get down this coast more quickly. We could go into the raiding stance, so we literally just station our army in an enemy territory and take money from them, just siphoning cash away. Or we could actually attack their settlements and pillage them. And then patrol is basically how you counter people raiding. But we're going to double time it. Oh, no, we're not. It's not going to give us anything. No, we'll just sail down there. Technology's done. Money. I need to build stuff, don't I? So in Attila, just clicking on the center thing, just like in Rome Total War, you see everything in that province. So we have Ribe, which is our capital. It's the only walled settlement. Is that still true? Yes, I think so. You don't have walls. And you don't have walls. One of the cool things about the Romans is their top level early settlements actually get walls themselves. Not early settlements, villages. So we could do some upgrades. We should also check the building browser. I want to see where we get our military units from. Garrisons. I will always love these buildings just because of my Roman campaign. Because you never had enough troops to actually defend your entire frontier, you had to rely on garrisons. And you got very, very good at defending settlements with a very, very small garrison. But that was actually one of the negatives about that campaign, is you fought so many defensive battles, they kind of got repetitive. Still a lot of fun though. So more armor. Mead Hall. Big axes. Oh, I like the sound of them. And more public order. Oh, there's the axe herdmen. Yeah, herdmen I really rate. They're basically your regular soldiers. Members of the herd is like members of the warrior cult, or the warrior class. And siege engineer. Can't really see the Vikings using many siege engines. And then settlement buildings were the other one I wanted to check. So in the city, so this would be in Ribe, I can go down the small city route or the long haul route. We've clearly gone the haul route here, which is basic walls, bigger garrisons from that. Same growth, more Imperium from here, more public order as well, but the city line grants you more money from commercial. Well, these guys give you more troops. Oh no, same number of troops, mind. So we probably do want the long haul, just so we can start building axe freemen and levy freemen. Oh no, we can already build them. Oh, it doesn't really add anything upgrading, so never mind. It's just more Imperium and more public order. And then in towns, we have the same choice between manors and market villages. So the manors are agricultural. Yeah, purely agricultural, and they give you access to axe freemen. So do these, same units either way. No, the garrisons are the same size. So you get commerce from the market towns and agriculture from the manors, and you get more growth from the manors. So we have a market village here and a manor there, so one of each. Food supply, we are plus 25. It is currently spring, so that is like a neutral number. We also have access to a dockyard, which when upgraded gives us access to Viking marauders and Viking smashers. I like the sound of those. So I'm going to guess the Viking smashers are like the upgrade to raiders. We also get a bigger garrison, so getting this upgrade would be kind of nice. We need to have at least a Noble's Hall or a King's Hall, which would mean that we need the upgrade there. Get the Mead Hall, which upgrades to the Warriors Hall. Now, we almost certainly want this because we want those Herdmen. Herdmen are a big upgrade from the regular soldiers, or at least they were for the Jutes. Fist Fighters, more public order, and more experience. Oh, nice. And then the Food Market, which is more money from commerce, more growth. Interesting. And more commerce. Do we have sanitation in this? We do. How does sanitation work? Sanitation, of course, was extremely important for the Romans. Not so much for these guys, though, apparently. Industry. Mills. Here we go. So plus 10 from agriculture and industry. There's no direct income increase. Doesn't cost any sanitation either. Oh, there's squalor. So if you have mines, then you need the sanitation stuff. Likewise with the goldsmiths. Good to know. Religion, how's that work? Public order, and public order to all adjacent provinces. That's nice. Osmosis means the spread of religions to other places. Paganism increases our own. Yeah, good. What else? Resources, that's probably self-sufficient, self-explanatory even. Yeah, they work exactly the same. Ports, we still split between fishing, dockyards and commercial. Dockyards giving you the best combat, fishing gives you food, and trade gives you commerce. Civic. Whoa, there are a lot of civic choices. Wow, okay. So we have traders who give you growth and commerce. That's what we have. Thought we had traders, didn't we? No, we have the food market. Okay. So trading post gives you commerce. Tavern gives you public order and assassins and spies. Treasury gives you wealth from all buildings and from adjacent provinces. Oh, okay, that's nice. They're quite expensive. Hall of Elders, more Imperium, more research. That's kind of your library then, and a bit of culture. Fighters, your wrestling pit, which is experience and public order. Food market is food and commerce. So food markets give you a lot of money, actually. And then the wine market. Why would Vikings want wine? Actually, Vinland, they believe, was called Vinland after the vines they found there. And the Vikings valued wine because it was expensive. Oh, yes, governor, of course. So, Hemming, are you actually any good? You have the second wind ability, but that's it. Fairly... Oh no, you have plus 10 agricultural wealth. That'll be fairly nice. Just have a look at these guys. Defender, plus more morale when defending. Entrepreneur, wealth from industrial, which you don't really have, and another defender. So yeah, Hemming's definitely the best option for governing Jutland. Siegfried is in the navy, as is Ragnar, and we can do an edict. So the two available edicts are construction cost minus 10% or growth 10% or research for military and more experience. I'm gonna go with the research rate. I'm just gonna build that anyway. Were there any more troops I could get? Might not be able to do that now I'm at sea. Whoops, that was a mistake. I could, however, get more assault ships. And these guys really are, if they're anything like the Jutes, they're amazing at raiding stuff. So this is a good enough army for the start. Let's end turn and let's get things moving here.